Wells Fargo opened 3.5 million accounts customers never requested. The scheme ran for at least 14 years, from 2002 to 2016. The CFPB, OCC, and Los Angeles fined Wells Fargo $185 million in 2016. Then CEO John Stumpf testified before the Senate Banking Committee. Now let's follow the receipts, starting with the quota system itself. Wells Fargo's retail banking model was built around cross-selling. The internal target was called 8 is great, 8 products per customer. Branch managers received daily sales scorecards tied directly to their performance reviews. Employees who missed quotas faced termination or relentless managerial pressure. A 2013 Los Angeles Times investigation first exposed the practice publicly. The Times reported tellers were calling friends and family to open fake accounts. Wells Fargo's internal response was to fire the employees, not stop the practice. Between 2011 and 2016, Wells Fargo fired approximately 5,300 employees for misconduct. The bank framed those firings as proof it was self-policing the problem. Internal documents showed senior leaders received warnings about the fraud as early as 2004. Now to the 3.5 million unauthorized accounts and how they were manufactured. Employees opened checking accounts, savings accounts, and credit cards without consent. They transferred funds from real accounts to fund the fake ones, triggering overdraft fees. Customers were charged fees on accounts they had no idea existed. Some customers discovered the fraud only when their credit scores had already dropped. Former employees described the pressure as soul-crushing in sworn depositions. One internal training video taught employees how to identify customers' financial pain points. That language appeared in court filings as evidence the bank coached manipulation. The CFPB's investigation officially began in 2015 and built on the LA Times reporting. Regulators subpoenaed internal sales reports, training materials, and termination records. Now to the $185 million penalty, still the largest CFPB fine at that time. The CFPB levied $100 million, the OCC $35 million. The consent order required Wells Fargo to repay all unauthorized fees to customers. Wells Fargo paid $6.1 million in restitution to harmed customers in that first settlement. Now to the Senate hearing, where CEO John Stumpf faced Senator Elizabeth Warren directly. Warren stated on the record that Stumpf had personally benefited from the fraud. Stumpf's Wells Fargo stock holdings had risen approximately $200 million during the scheme. Warren called the behavior gutless leadership during the nationally televised hearing. Stumpf resigned as CEO in October 2016, roughly 5 weeks after the penalty. But the board allowed him to keep tens of millions in unvested equity awards initially. Under shareholder and regulatory pressure, the board later clawed back $41 million from Stumpf. The head of community banking, Carrie Tolstedt, had clawbacks of $67 million applied. Now to the aftermath, the account total grew from 2.1 million to 3.5 million on recount. In 2018, the Federal Reserve imposed an asset cap of $1.95 trillion on the bank. That asset cap remained in force for more than 5 years, a historic regulatory penalty. In 2020, the OCC fined Wells Fargo an additional $500 million under a new consent order. The DOJ and SEC reached a $3 billion settlement with Wells Fargo in February 2020. Under that agreement, Wells Fargo admitted to criminal conduct for the first time. In 2022, the CFPB fined Wells Fargo a record $1.7 billion over broader consumer abuses. Regulators also required $2 billion in redress to more than 16 million customer accounts. Multiple former executives faced OCC prohibition orders barring them from banking permanently. The case drove Congress to strengthen CFPB enforcement authority in subsequent legislation. Wells Fargo's total regulatory penalties across all actions exceeded $5 billion by 2023. The Federal Reserve's asset cap was still in place as of late 2024, 8 years after imposition. The receipts on what a quota culture costs, minus 3.5 million accounts, $5 billion, no one jailed. If this case is still on your mind, the CFPB's full 2022 consent order is public record. Link in the description, and we'll be back next week with another set of receipts.